Heart disease and stroke continue to be major killers in Britain. Cardiovascular disease is particularly concentrated in inner city areas such as Sandwell, which is home to a diverse multi-ethnic population.
Any more chest pain or any difficulty in breathing at all?
No, not like that.
Good. And you've been taking your tablets all regularly?
Yes.
Good. And your sugars are under control?
Yes.
Good.
The reasons for excess cardiovascular risk in Sandwell and the Black Country is due to increased rates of diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity and high cholesterol, factors that increase the risk of heart attacks and stroke. Also, black and ethnic minority groups appear to be genetically susceptible to diabetes and high blood pressure, much of which remains undiagnosed.
The reason for excess cardiovascular risk in Sandwell and the Black Country is because
a team of doctors and health professionals in Sandwell have been researching the reasons for these high rates of diabetes and heart disease in ethnic minorities. Dr. Elizabeth Hughes is the consultant physician who led this research. And together with Tony Deep of East End Foods, has founded a charity called Healthy Harts. This is a social enterprise initiative tackling health inequality. A delegation consisting of health professionals, the private sector and social and charitable organisations, all of whom have an impact on health and health care, were taken to the House of Commons to meet the Right Honourable Patricia Hewitt MP, the Secretary of State for Health. And there they launched this charity. The Right Honourable Keith Vaz MP hosted the event.
I'm very pleased to say that the Secretary of State has arrived.
The Health Secretary was garlanded with flowers in the traditional manner.
Again, not too much squeezing because he's just taken his chairperson, I should say. Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Dr. Paramjeet Gill, Senior Clinical Lecturer at the University of Birmingham, described the disparities existing in current healthcare. He explained that providing an equal service is not about giving people the same service. They should be designed to meet the specific needs of individual communities.
In health amongst minority ethnic.
Azar Faruqi, a general practitioner with special interest in diabetes, illustrated the complications caused by the disease.
It's a major cause of heart attack, stroke and heart disease. It's the biggest cause of amputation in this country.
Dr. Liz Hughes gives her account of the research and the project.
Some 20 years ago, whilst working in the eastern part of Birmingham, I began to notice the significant numbers of South Asians from the Kashmiri community being admitted to our hospital with heart attacks at an early age. Many of these patients were also found to have diabetes, often with complications already present. And this experience later formed the basis of our 4-year research project, examining the effect of migration from the Indian subcontinent on the incidence of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And from our research, it was clear that the diet within the various communities had changed from traditional practices to one of higher fat intake and increasing reliance on processed foods. So it was therefore important to try to develop culturally sensitive foods, which at the same time provided a healthy diet. The results of our community screening, together with the knowledge of the importance of diet and the etiology and prevention of diabetes within the South Asian community, stimulated us to look for a collaboration with a partner who shared our ideals and goals in this area. This we were very fortunate to find in Tony Deep of East End Foods. And from that, our joint vision of the Healthy Hearts Institute was born. Through our collaboration with Tony and his fantastic team at East End Foods, we have started to investigate the key food staples in the South Asian diet and how we can develop and promote healthy alternatives while maintaining their cultural integrity. The results of collaborations such as we have with East End Foods and with other partners will enable the Healthy Hearts Institute to share effective strategies with colleagues across the Midlands, particularly in Leicester, with whom we share a very similar broad ethnic minority group. And we hope that through our community and drop-in service that we will be able to screen up to 3,000 people per year.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy that Health Secretary has accepted our invitation. There are people who are present here who have given me a lot. So it's important that I give back to the society.
Then came the visual presentation. The increased burden of heart disease and stroke among migrant communities in Britain is a key government focus. Dr. Liz Hughes, a consultant physician, is experienced in treating patients from various ethnic backgrounds.
Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death in Britain today, some 238,000 deaths annually, but the burden is much greater among the country's ethnic minorities. Heart disease rates are 50% higher in the country's South Asian community. Not only is the burden of disease much greater in South Asians, but they die earlier and have more complications from this disease. Rates of stroke are also much higher in South Asians, but are particularly prevalent in people originating from Africa and the Caribbean, and also in Irish communities.
This high mortality from heart disease and stroke is due to the damaging effects of diabetes and high blood pressure, which are prevalent in South Asian and Afro-Caribbean groups.
Health inequalities have been appreciated for decades now, and one of the main drivers for this within ethnic minority communities is cardiovascular disease and diabetes.
Most of the South Asian patients who had a stroke didn't understand they had a stroke. The problem and the reason for this is the communication gap between the patients and the healthcare system and the illiteracy.
If you want your cholesterol checked, you have to spend a lot of time booking appointment with surgery, waiting for a blood test, waiting for a consultant, and it will be very difficult if there are language barrier.
Most migrant communities living in Britain have experienced a large lifestyle change, the effects of which we're now seeing through these very high rates of cardiovascular disease. In our own research, we compared Indian migrants living in this country with their contemporaries still living in rural India, and what we found was that with migration, there were high levels of blood pressure, more obesity, and higher serum cholesterol, and altogether there were more complications of diabetes.
The Healthy Hearts team at Sandwell have addressed these problems by developing a centre to screen for diabetes, obesity, cholesterol and blood pressure. They've taken healthcare out to the community, led by a team of health professionals who measure the risk factors. Importantly, the team uses multilingual staff who can explain the nature of the screening and the follow-up action needed.
In the Healthy Heart project, you will get an interpreter, so you can come to the center, you can discuss your health issue, and you can ask for information in your own language.
When we measure the blood pressure in the Healthy Heart community screens, we follow strict guidelines as provided by the British Hypertension Society. To obtain accurate readings, we try to get patients to sit and relax, and we will do blood pressures up to 3 times to get a true reflection of their readings. This isn't always possible in a GP setting.
What is different and important about the Healthy Heart projects is that patients are able to see a doctor in a controlled environment in which they can discuss their hypertension and diabetes issues. They can also discuss how to change their lifestyles.
Diet is an important factor of diabetes and obesity, and the main emphasis is providing cultural appropriate information for this client group.
Peas, beans and lentils are a high source of fibre and protein, and indeed they're very healthy for you, but they need to be cooked in the right way in order to get the best out of them. The public really needs to be made aware of how dangerous trans fats can be, and a campaign in order to bring that awareness about is very, very important.
The first approach to treatment is change in diet and lifestyle. But this advice needs to be tailored. East End Foods, a well-known Indian food company based in Sandwell, works as a part of the Healthy Hearts team developing culturally acceptable food options.
We need to support projects like this, which addresses the inequalities in healthcare. I have personally lost 3 members of my family prematurely to diabetes and heart attack, and that is enough incentive for me to start a charity of this kind.
I only discovered that I had type 2 diabetes when I visited my local screening centre at the invitation of my GP, Dr. Azhar Faruqi. The work that is being done in Leicester and Sandwell is a huge tribute to the professionals.
However, it is difficult to change people's eating habits. Wholemeal chapatis cooked in this manner are healthy. Practices like deep frying need to be reduced.
Thank you. Keep looking this way.
It is possible to cook Indian food healthily. We asked David Miliband, the Secretary of State for Environment and Food, to cook a curry for us using healthy ingredients. Later, we analysed this in the laboratory and found that it contained half the fat of curries on sale in supermarkets. What's more, it contained no hydrogenated fats, also known as trans fats. These are dangerous because they clog the arteries.
John. Very Moorish.
We want a coordinated effort by those that can make impact into the community.
I think it is vital that in a place like the Midlands, with such a large ethnic minority population, that we should have centres that will screen citizens for diabetes.
I'll put a lot of effort in getting the private sector together, but we need local government as well as central government in order to help us. And NHS will have to come in so that an effective referral system can be put into place.
The research unit works out of Sandwell and West Birmingham Trust and particularly promotes research into cardiovascular and diabetes treatment, particularly focused on ethnic minority communities, which are very important in our area. I think this is a very exciting initiative and I'm happy to contribute the building in which the service will be based.
There is strong evidence that young people, because of their lifestyle, because of what they eat and their high cholesterol level, and because of the hypertension and stress that some of them have to go through, are also susceptible to diabetes. Therefore, I strongly welcome this appeal to the health service to give support to these 2 fine initiatives.
Believe me, you are still living in the best country in the world. I went to USA and got ill, and they wouldn't take me off the stretcher unless I pay the money. So don't kid yourself. It's still the best country.
Please welcome Patricia Hewitt.
The NHS is brilliant. The NHS staff are brilliant at caring for people who are sick, who are in pain, who are acutely ill. But what we need to be doing far more of is preventing people becoming ill in the first place. And then if people have a treatable condition, like type 2 diabetes, making sure that they're given the support they need to look after themselves and to be supported in doing that by the NHS so that that diabetes is reduced in severity instead of leading to worse and worse complications and then to their death. The incidence of type 2 diabetes and then of heart disease and premature heart attack is so much worse amongst the black and minority ethnic communities of our country. Type 2 diabetes alone, 3 times as likely to be found in the African and African Caribbean community, 6 times as likely in Britain's South Asian community. And these shocking figures then produce the terrible grief and loss that so many families in our community, so many families who are very close friends of Keith and my own and many of you here, have suffered when a beloved father or husband, son, partner has died prematurely. Tony, as so many members of your family have died, from a condition that is preventable. In order to identify diabetes, type 2 diabetes, you have to screen for it. And I think in a pilot screening program in Birmingham, you discovered, didn't you, Sue, that something like 40% of those diagnosed with type 2 diabetes didn't know, didn't even suspect previously that they had it. So the extension of the screening program, both in Leicester and in Birmingham, the NHS working with other partners, is absolutely critical to improving the health of people in our communities, but particularly people in our black and minority ethnic communities. And that's what we want to do, to help them make those often very difficult changes in the way you cook, the way you eat, the amount of exercise you take, all those things, and doing it in a culturally sensitive way in order to save more people's lives, to transform the quality of people's health and well-being, and to do so equally in all our communities, because that is part of the founding values of the NHS, that it would be there for everybody. But we have to go on working with all the partners who are involved in this, with local government certainly, but with business as well, because it's business who provides the food, the jobs, so much of what we benefit from in this country. And we all need to be working together to help people lead those healthier lives that everybody wants for themselves and their families. And I thank you particularly, Keith, for bringing us together this afternoon. I want to thank Tony for his championship of the Healthy Hearts Institute. I want to thank both Sue and Tim, our colleagues from the Primary Care Trusts, and I want to thank all the clinicians and the donors who so generously are supporting and leading this vital work. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I know.
The Health Secretary congratulated the delegates on the success of the project and lent her full support for any future challenges.
All right, and then Patricia will join you.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please?